Thank you, Emily. And hi, everyone. I'm Leah McLean, President of Blueprint Operational Solutions. We help political campaigns and organizations build winning teams through strategic staffing and operational support. Today, we're here to prep you on interviews to get that job. These tips aren't groundbreaking, but in the hundreds of interviews we've conducted for campaigns, I see the same things come up all the time. So I'm giving you insight on how to prep and ace your interview. If you've made it to interview day, you've already made it past an important step. Now it's about showing the best version of yourself, making it to the next round, getting one step closer to signing papers for your new job. I'm going to be sharing insights on interview day, including some key do's and don'ts based on years of experience being interviewed and serving as interviewers. After that, Scott McLean, my co-founder, will walk through some exciting and hopefully less stressful ways of connecting in the political space and approaching the job search. Let's get started. Be on time. In fact, be early. Most interviews and meetings these days are virtual, which has pros and cons. One advantage is that there's very little excuse for being late. Logging on early shows professionalism and respect for the interviewer's time. Definitely be sure to check the time zone. You'd hate to be 1 to 2 hours late, but have been prepared otherwise. You may get passed over if they don't have time to reschedule. Even if they're the ones running behind, remain courteous. That professionalism is noticed. Many experienced interviewers will begin forming impressions within the first few minutes. Before you answer a single question, they're noticing whether consciously or not, if you're on time, how prepared you are, and how you appear, how you're dressed, if you fixed your hair, that you aren't eating or chewing on gum, your posture, your energy, and especially in virtual interviews, your environment. This isn't about perfection. It's about intentionality. How you enter sets the tone for everything that follows. With that said, we enter the world of virtual interviews. How many start off and maybe the only interviews you have distance? Most interviews today are virtual, and while that can feel more relaxed, it's still a job interview. In-person interviews are easier because you're immersed in the environment and don't have to think about these things. But for virtual interviews, preparation matters. Dress professionally, simple colors, nothing overly busy or distracting. Pay attention to what's behind you and around you. Interviewers will see your space. If you're staying with family or friends and have limited space, you can still make it work. Set yourself up in a corner with a pop-up table, stack books so your laptop is at eye level, and do what you can to create a clean, professional setup. A small tip, which may help, is to put a piece of blue tape or a Post-it near your camera to remind yourself to look up. It feels strange, but it helps create eye contact. Double check the evening beforehand that your computer or laptop will be able to log in. Sometimes it's a Google, other times it's make sure you check in advance which platform the interview will be on and that you have the app downloaded and updated. Do a sound and a video check. Check your microphone and your headphones in advance to make sure the sound works on both ends. Make sure there's no background noise, barking dogs, loud roommates, or distractions from a coffee shop. The interview should be intentional with you as the focus. Pay attention to lighting. Don't sit directly in front of a window or you'll appear as a silhouette. If you're in a darker space, a small ring light attached to your computer can make a big difference. Don't over-explain. This is one of the most common issues we see. We've been in interviews that were scheduled for 15 minutes and ended up lasting nearly 40 minutes because the candidate kept talking without actually making their point. In one case, it was the person's first round interview, and unfortunately, they did not move on to the next round because they quite literally talked themselves out of a job. They had strong qualifications, but by over-explaining, they raised concerns that didn't need to be raised and lost focus on the original question. Talking more won't always help. Pause, think, and answer the question directly, and then stop. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. It's often better to be honest and straightforward than to over-explain or speculate. You can acknowledge that you don't have the answer and briefly explain how you would go about finding it. In campaign work, you will inevitably encounter situations you don't fully understand at first. Interviewers are looking to see that you can think critically, problem solve, and identify a path forward, even when you don't have all the information. Honesty and clarity are far more effective than rambling. Personality is part of the interview process, and that's not a bad thing. In many cases, a campaign or organization may already have a director in place and be hiring for a deputy director or supporting role. The people interviewing you likely know that director well and understand how they work best. So while you're being interviewed for your experience, which is why you were contacted in the first place, they also need to know that you'll work well with that department and team. This is why being yourself matters. You don't want to force yourself into a role or environment where there's no synergy. In the long run, you'll be much happier working with people who value you, not just for your experience, but for who you are. It may sound a little hokey, but it's true. Birds of a feather flock together. You'll find your flock. Let the interview be a two-way conversation. They're learning about you, and you're learning about whether this team is right for you. We want to emphasize the goal is to remove anything that pulls focus from your message. Another possible distraction can be your body language. And there's a scene in Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell where he doesn't know what to do with his hands during an interview. It's funny, but sadly it's also very real. Some of us talk with our hands, and that's rather common and not overly distracting. However, sometimes your hands may be busy to the viewers. Holding interviews with a room full of people for certain roles, one very qualified candidate was overlooked because he repeatedly touched his nose throughout the interview. The team found it distracting, even though he was highly qualified, ultimately chose a couple other candidates who were just as qualified without the distraction. Avoid touching your nose, ears, mouth, or face. Don't fidget, rub your head, or constantly play with your hair. You may not even realize you're doing it. People are thinking deeply or they're nervous. They often default to habits, twirling their hair, rubbing their eyebrows, touching their ear, tapping fingers. We all have our things. Have someone who knows you well tell you what your habits are. Practice in advance so you're aware of them. If you need something to do with your hands, use a stress ball or something small, especially during virtual interviews. They won't see it and it's off camera. The goal is to make sure nothing physically distracts from the information you're sharing. Once you're hired, that's a different story. But for those few minutes you're in front of interviewers, keep your hands calm and away from the camera. Let them focus on you, not your movements. Professional and personable is key. Interviewers are asking themselves, can I work with this person under pressure? Campaigns can be intense, and staying calm and collected is a superpower. Nerves are normal, but remember, you're being interviewed because they already see potential in you. Show them who you are and what you can do, not just what your nerves are showing. Think before you answer. Impulsiveness can be a deterrent. Take a brief pause, give the question your full attention, and respond thoughtfully. This is a passionate field, but avoid swearing or using overly vulgar language. You may think it comes across as driven or passionate, but it can be perceived as impulsive, emotionally reactive, or unprofessional. You don't know the background of the person interviewing you. They could be a former teacher, union member, parent, church or synagogue leader, or come from a variety of professional backgrounds. Don't assume that strong language will help you stand out. Imagine you're speaking to a school principal or teacher. You'd still show your skills without using that kind of language. Work isn't always exciting. Sometimes it's breaking down tables, cleaning up after events, or doing unglamorous work. Interviewers want to know you'll bring the same professionalism and work ethic even when things aren't spicy. Make sure your LinkedIn photo is professional if you have an account. Be cautious about what you post. Employers will look. Don't bash other people or employers, and don't be overly critical online. That can be a deterrent for teams deciding whether they want to work with you. Campaigns do background checks. Assume anything you've posted can come to light, and double check and triple check your social media so nothing comes back to haunt you later. Always follow up with a thank you email after the interview. Waiting is hard, and we've been there. You can follow up once or twice later that week or the following week, but don't overdo it. A lot happens behind the scenes that may be out of the interviewer's control. Being overly pushy can add stress when they may not have an answer yet. Once you've shown your best self and followed up appropriately, try to let it go. If it's the right place, it will work out. You've already been selected from a stack of resumes and referrals. That matters. Preparation helps you show the best version of yourself. Not every role is going to be the right fit, and that's okay. You just keep showing up. If you have any extra tips that have helped you, please feel welcome to leave a note in the comment section. Let's keep supporting each other and showing up ready. The right opportunity will work out. Thank you for spending time with us today. We're excited to introduce a new innovative approach to hiring and job placement. I'll now hand things over to Scott, who will provide additional details and outline the next steps.